welcome to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I'm your host, Louis Padian. I hope that you're doing well and are enjoying the podcast and the topics we've covered so far. These podcasts are released every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening to be kept up to date. So on today's episode, this was something that crossed my mind the other day, and I thought it was quite a good analogy and something that can probably all resonate with, and something that I've probably compared to what I've been through as I've started to focus on being healthier, trying to be more active, improve my diet, all these different things that I work on with clients as well. And I thought it was a really good way to communicate what we need to focus on when we come to looking at improving our health and well-being. And that is, your favorite recipe can teach you about health and well-being and improving your health and well-being as well. And when I say your favorite recipe, we all have our go-tos. We have our ones that are probably our signature dish, our ones that we cook maybe more often than not, or maybe not that frequently, but we really look forward to, and one that we've got quite familiar with and develop a lot of skills with. And it's just something that I feel that often people do have a favorite recipe, and that's why I thought it would be a useful analogy in this situation. So things that we can learn, and first one is that often we all start in the same place, not knowing where to go, not knowing what to do. I know when I first started cooking, I had no clue, and I still don't have a huge amount of quality and skills with my cooking. I can get by, I can cook decent meals, but I would know by no means say that I'm a kitchen maestro or a chef. But I know when I started, it can be a bit overwhelming, and the same goes for people when they're starting the health and well-being journey. They're trying to lose weight, they're trying to improve their diet, get a bit more active. The amount of information out there is overwhelming, and the same happens when you're cooking. You don't know where to start, you don't know which pan to use for what, you don't know how to switch the cooker on, you don't know what needs to be cooked how, and often we just need to get stuck in with a plan, and that comes from usually a recipe book, a blog online, and you will follow that word for word. You will follow a cooking tutorial online. You will follow your favourite chef. You might tune in on a Saturday morning, watch, I think it's Saturday Kitchen or whatever. You might just get a recipe book and fumble your way through it, but constantly looking back and forward at that plan. It'll feel really clunky. It'll feel really unnatural. You'll be unsure, not very confident, constantly double checking the measurements that you're doing it right. But when you first do it, you'll learn a lot on that journey, because you'll make mistakes, you'll be unsure, you'll be taking in a lot of information, but you trust the process. And that's the same when you're looking at your health and well-being as well, that people often know where to start, and often we just need a structure to start with. And that's often where I start a lot with patients and clients as well. We will have a plan that they can stick to, and that plan might look very similar for a lot of people, especially if we're looking at gym programs, because often starting with a very generalized program allows people to experience different movements, get a bit more confident across lots of different exercises, and then we start to develop as we move on. Same with healthier eating, increasing fruits and vegetables, increasing protein intake, looking at having more whole foods in the diet, reducing the amount of processed foods and added sugars in the diet, reducing the amount of liquid calories in the diet potentially, or being mindful of that approach on the whole for most people. So this was something that I thought really resonated. Having that plan to start with is really important. We can probably all envision that first time, or remember that first time that we sat down or we stood at the cooker and we were going to be brave to cook a dish. And I can't remember what I first cooked. I think it might have been a sweet and sour pork, and I put in the whole shallots and they weren't even peeled, of garlic back in the day. So I would like to think I've come a long way since then. But when I was looking at this, I wanted to sort of have a look at what the research suggests around this, as always. And there was a 2019 study that highlighted the effectiveness of having a structured program in promoting healthy behaviors like getting more active and improving people's weight management. And it's almost like a roadmap or a sat nav, much like a recipe is, providing clear instructions, structure, and gives you a good place to start. And I thought that was a really good way to put it, that it is a bit like a roadmap and a bit of a blueprint for people to work from and get familiar with and get started with a lot more confidence, knowing that somebody who knows what they're doing, knows who's been there before will support them going through it, and hopefully the end result will be pretty good as well. So another part of this was refining your skills. So just like perfecting your favorite recipe, your go-to recipe, it takes time and requires consistent effort. Yes, you'll have that recipe and you'll be like, God, that tastes brilliant first time round. But then as you get more familiar with it, you'll start to throw in a few of your own bits, but you'll just get more consistent with it. You will know what's coming up next, the timings, what cooks how, and the process will be a lot smoother. So each attempt at that recipe, you hone your skills. It allows you to refine your technique and personalize it, add a bit of seasoning here and there to your preferences. Same with getting healthier as well. Starting with that blueprint is brilliant. Starting with that generalized gym plan is brilliant. Starting with that generalized or that loose sort of structure to your diet or your eating habits is really useful. But then you start to figure out what works for you and what doesn't, what might need tweaking a bit. Add a bit of seasoning and spice here. You might add a bit more diversity to your diet. You might find certain foods agree with you a bit more than others. You might find you enjoy certain activities more than others, and different ways in how for you to get active more often. So that formulation and that consistency and that repetitive effort is the only way that you're going to improve on that recipe. You're not going to become a master chef on that one recipe off your first go. It'll be a pretty good recipe to start with, I imagine, because an elite chef has taught you how to do it. You followed the process, but you'll learn to put your own twist on it over time. And again, research supports this and looks at the importance of repetition in habit formation. We know that it's about that consistency and repeated efforts. Highlighting the consistency actually strengthens the neural pathways in your brain. So that means that it's more automatic. It's less, you have to think less about it, making that healthy habits, that recipe, more automatic over time. So that consistent practice with healthy habits, just like you are when you're cooking, becomes ingrained into your daily routines, rituals, which gets you the results long term and is easier to maintain long term as well. Another part of this that I thought was a really good comparison was embracing the individuality. So as you become more comfortable with a recipe, you naturally experiment and personalize it. You might substitute ingredients, adjusting cooking times, or add your own creative twists. We've touched on this a bit, but I thought it was worth reiterating. And the same applies to your well-being journey, that listen to your body, your preferences, what suits your lifestyle, and an approach that works best for you. That might involve finding enjoyable exercise routines that fit your schedule and fitness level, discovering healthy recipes that tantalize your taste buds, or developing mindfulness practices that resonate with your personality. All these different things are about feeling your way through it, but finding what's going to work best for you. I wouldn't give someone just one recipe book and said, right, you've got to use that recipe, say a Mediterranean cookbook, even though the Mediterranean diet is very lovely and often is quoted for its healthfulness. But saying to someone, right, you've got to stick to this recipe book and that's all you can eat. After a while, people might be looking, well, I want to change things up a little bit. I want to try a bit of Asian food. I want something that's probably a bit more of a home comfort. I want something that might be a bit more simple and less lower in fat potentially. So this was really important, is having that personalization process throughout this and feeling your way into it. And as you become more confident, competent with the skills around getting healthier, same as when you're cooking, you start to put your own twists on it and learn how to use those tools more effectively and what works for you and how to use it and when to use it. So a 2018 study emphasise the importance of individualised interventions in promoting healthy lifestyle changes. We know that in order for it to work for people, getting healthier, improving their diet and getting more active, it needs to work for them as an individual. And we can't give these blanket approaches like everything that you see on social media, where this one person will be shouting at you really aggressively that this is the one thing that everyone needs to do. Often it's not the case. Often people have to sit on a spectrum within certain healthy habits. And whilst I might say, increasing your fruits and vegetables, getting 5+ a day is really, really beneficial to health, for some people that might not be realistic for them. We might say, well, maybe going from 0 to 3 is the end goal for them, and that's fantastic because we're getting more fibre in there, we're getting more diversity, more nutrition, more vitamins and minerals into their diet. But for other people, the end goal might be 7 portions per day because they have a more plant-based diet. So often we don't want to go blanket statements with these things. We can't give out generalized plans and expect people to stick to them long term and say everyone needs to just do this. There is no one perfect workout. There is no one perfect diet. Often we have to work with those individuals. So it's no one size fits all approach to well-being. And just like your favorite recipe, yours should be personalized to your unique preferences and needs. Last but not least, and this one probably isn't as obvious, but it's about the journey and not the destination, and embracing the process. So when you're mastering a recipe, it takes time, it takes dedication, maybe even a few mistakes like burning things, putting the wrong ingredients in, putting the wrong measurements in along the way. But achieving well-being is exactly the same thing. You will make mistakes, but it's about not being disheartened and carrying on. There will be challenges, there'll be setbacks, there'll be moments where you might need to adjust things to your approach, and that's completely fine. But that's all part of the process. And if we want people to be in a position where they're able to be as healthy and happy as they can be, if you want to be that person, you need to go through this process, because you need to have all those lessons along the way and have that mentality of overcoming obstacles, knowing when to push and pull, listening to your body, knowing yourself a lot better through this process as well, and also celebrating the process and progress along the way with a sense of growth and self-compassion. So hugely important to remember that actually the outcome is the process rather than the outcome. So we want you to enjoy and embrace and become really, really happy and fulfilled with the process, not just this golden destination, because often the destination actually falls into the abyss and it isn't important anymore. Actually, it's about what you're doing day to day and how you feel about those habits and behaviors, how they make you feel, and in that sort of cycle, how making you feel makes you behave as well. So hopefully this has been an interesting ramble for you to listen to on the importance and of health and well-being, but also how, like with everything, there are so many parallels between health and well-being. Often it's seen in this different field where we need to have a completely different approach to how we approach everything else in life. But actually, it's very similar to, like we said, your own favorite recipe, like learning to drive or learning anything new or starting something new that you're completely unaware of. Often things like having a plan to start with or a blueprint to work from when you're unfamiliar, when you're learning, when you're unsure, to know how to get successful and feel your way through it is really important. It's all about that repetition as well, that refining your skills, refining the process and getting familiar with it is massively important to it, because that makes it more habitual, improves those neural pathways, making healthier habits more automatic over time. It's also about that individuality element as well, being really important and running throughout this, that making it personal to you, not looking for that one size fits all that's going to be the golden ticket for a long-term success. Often we need to tweak things as we go. We might need to take a bit from lots of different inspirational points and make our own version of this as well. But most importantly, underlining this is embracing the process, not just getting fixated on the destination, not just get fixated on that perfect outcome, but understanding that there will be challenges, there'll be setbacks, there'll be times when things get really difficult, but also from that you will grow, you will learn, and you will get a huge amount more success and satisfaction as you progress from those setbacks and those challenges as well. So there you have it. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. If you have any questions, queries, or would like to reach out to me, please do. I am at Louis Padian Nutrition, which is at LOUISPADIAN Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you're looking for support in achieving your goals and living a healthier, happier, and more balanced life in the process, click the link below and inquire about working with me. Remember to subscribe to the Balanced Approach podcast wherever you're listening for more insightful episodes, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.